Hola, that's hello in Spanish, folks. Welcome to Sumit Academy. I do hope that you're keeping up with my videos. Do subscribe to my channel so that you do not miss out on my previous or future videos. In this video, the first of a two-part series, we shall talk about the rights and obligations of citizens. No amount of governance can ever be successful unless the citizens are granted and are aware of not only their rights but also their obligations to the nation. Are these duties and obligations laid down? The fundamental rights, directive principles of state policy, and fundamental duties are sections of the Constitution of India that prescribe the fundamental obligations of the state to its citizens and the duties of the citizens to the state. These sections comprise a constitutional Bill of Rights for government policy making and the behavior and conduct of citizens. These sections are considered vital elements of the Constitution, which was developed between 1947 and 1949 by the Constituent Assembly of India. Fundamental rights is defined as the basic human rights of all citizens. These rights, defined in para 3 of the Constitution, apply irrespective of race, place, religion, caste, creed, or gender. They are enforceable by the courts, subject to specific restrictions. The directive principles of state policy are guidelines for the framing of laws by the government. These provisions, set out in Part 4 of the Constitution, are not enforceable by the courts, but the principles on which they are based are fundamental guidelines for governance that the state is expected to apply in framing and passing laws. Fundamental duties are defined as the moral obligations of all citizens to help promote a spirit of patriotism and to uphold the unity of India. Now, these duties, set out in Part 4A of the Constitution, concern individuals and the nation. Like the directive principles, they too are not enforceable by law. What is the meaning and importance of rights and duties? Rights are rules of interaction between people. They place constraints and obligations upon the actions of the state and individuals or groups. So, for example, if one has a right to life, this means that others do not have the liberty to kill him or her. Rights are defined as claims of an individual that are essential for the development of his or her own self and that are recognized by society or state. Rights are often considered fundamental to civilization, being regarded as established pillars of society and culture. However, rights have real meaning only if individuals perform duties. A duty is something that someone is expected or required to do. The obligations that accompany rights are in the form of duties. If we have the right to enjoy public facilities like transport or health services, it becomes our duty to allow others to avail the same. If we have the right to freedom, it becomes our duty not to misuse this and harm others. The directive principles of state policy, embodied in Part 4 of the Constitution, are directions given to the state to guide the establishment of an economic and social democracy, as proposed by the preamble to our Constitution. They set forth the humanitarian and socialist instructions that were the aim of social revolution, as envisaged in India by the Constituent Assembly. The state is expected to keep these principles in mind while framing laws and policies, even though they are non-justiciable in nature. The directive principles may be classified under three categories. Firstly, ideals that the state ought to strive towards achieving. Secondly, directions for the exercise of legislative and executive power. And thirdly, rights of the citizens which the state must aim towards securing. Fundamental rights are claims that are essential for the existence and development of individuals. In that sense, there will be a long list of rights. Whereas all these are recognized by the society, some of the most important rights are recognized by the state and enshrined in the Constitution. Now, such rights are called the fundamental rights. These rights are fundamental because of two reasons. First, these are mentioned in the Constitution, which guarantees them, and the second, they are justiciable, that is, enforceable through courts. Being justiciable means that in case of their violation, the individual can approach courts for their protection. If a government enacts a law that restricts any of these rights, it will be declared invalid by the courts. Now, such rights are provided in Part 3 of the Indian Constitution. The Constitution guarantees 6 fundamental rights to Indian citizens. These are the right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, and finally, right to constitutional remedies. Now, can the fundamental rights be considered as human rights? You see, fundamental rights are indeed essential for the well-being of every citizen. People have always struggled against injustice, exploitation, and inequality for the creation of better surroundings, better living conditions, and preservation of human dignity. Efforts to avail such rights to all human beings have been made at the international level also by recognizing various rights, which are popularly known as human rights. The General Assembly of the United Nations adopted human rights in 1948 and enshrined them in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Some of these human rights are equality before law, freedom from discrimination, right to life, liberty and personal security, right to free movement, right to education, right to marriage and family, freedom of thought, conscience and religion, right to peaceful assembly and association, and right to participate in the cultural life of the community. Many of the human rights have found a place in the chapter on fundamental rights in the Indian Constitution. The human rights which could not find place under the fundamental rights have been included in the chapter on directive principles of state policy. Keeping in view the importance of human rights, the National Human Rights Commission was founded in 1993 by the Government of India to guarantee that the Indian citizens also enjoy those rights. Well, that's all from me in this, the first of my two-part videos on the rights and obligations of citizens. We shall continue in the second video of the series. Do remember to like this video and do share on your Facebook page. And do subscribe to my channel so that you do not miss out on my previous or future videos. Till later then, cheerio.